So what I did, about 2001, we had a crash. You may remember the .com, the crash. All the companies went out of business, lost their money. People jumped out of windows and so on. And so I realized, I began to see and talk to business owners like yourself, is that most people really had what I call a broken tooth business. Now, a broken tooth business is a business where some teeth are broken. They're just holes in the mouth, and they have other teeth. So one may be on sales, and the other tooth is on marketing. The broken tooth is on marketing, and you have a full tooth on packing, but you have an empty tooth on hiring people. You know, one of the most important skills that you can develop, which you'll learn today, is the ability to hire the right people, just exactly what Howard was saying. If you cannot hire the right people, which is an art form, it's an art form, but it is fortunately a learnable art form. If you can't do that, you cannot grow. You cannot move ahead. It's almost like if you got back to your car in a bad neighborhood and find that your four wheels were gone. You're going to have a real hard time driving away. And so you have to know these critical skills. Well, so I began to work with an enormous number of business owners, small, medium-sized, and I found that most of them did not know the critical skills necessary, which we'll talk about today, to build a successful, highly profitable business. Much less did they know now, some years later, how to redesign the business so it's appropriate for what you need for today. So I decided I would hold a coaching program. And I started a program called Focal Point Coaching and Mentoring by Brian Tariesi. And the program, well, I would take in 30 or 40 people, one day every 3 months in my offices or facilities in San Diego. And I would take them through a series of exercises. And I would show them how to incorporate these exercises into their operation of their business. And I used to give them a guarantee. I would say, I'm going to give you a guarantee, and the guarantee, because business people are really skeptical, because everybody's trying to rip a chunk out of small business people. They're all trying to rob you and cheat you and overcharge you and underdeliver and everything else. That was my experience. I'm sure that you've not had anything like that. Anyway, and so to overcome their skepticism, especially since the market had collapsed and many small businesses had collapsed, I say, look, if you follow my plan, 4 days in 1 year, I will guarantee that you will double your income and you will double your time off over the next 12 months. And if you don't, I will give you your money back. So now the onus is on me. The most important part was that they trusted me. It's because I had a good reputation. They trusted me, so they said, okay, on that basis, I'll take your course. I know I spoke to many of them after the second or third full day, and they said the only reason I took this program was because of your guarantee. And I didn't expect to ever have to pay. I expected that you would not be able to do it. I never had to pay a refund. I never had once, and I gave the course over and over again to more than 1,000 business owners eventually before I discontinued it, and I never had a refund because everybody doubled and tripled their income and doubled or tripled their time off with their family by following these methods and techniques. And these are some of the techniques that I will share with you. And then later I realized that we needed to basically step it up a bit. And I developed this program called, I call it the Total Business Mastery. Now we call it the 1 day or the 2 day MBA. I started off with actually a 3 day MBA, and then I got feedback saying that people don't have 3 days. So I made it a 2 day MBA. And then they came back and they said they don't have 2 days. And could I do it as a 1 day MBA? So I did. And I've given this to more than 1,000 people at a time. And also with the same guarantee, is if you're not happy at the end of the day, you can just say, I'm not happy, no explanation necessary, 100% refund. I've given this course in darkest Africa, in Kenya, and Dar es Salaam, and Uganda. I've given this course in India. I've given it in Russia and China. I've given it in Latin America, some of the poorest countries in the world where I would suspect that these people are going to try to take advantage of me after the course. And you know what? Not one of them ever asked for their money back. Not one of them came up and said, I didn't get my money's worth. They came up and they said, you've changed my life. You've saved my business. You've transformed my life. I mean, it was wonderful, just wonderful experience. And so I put it into a 1 day version, and Howard and I talked about this, and I suggested this would be the very best thing for me to share with you, this 1 day version, the 1 day MBA. So that's what we're going to do today. And what I'm going to share with you is some ideas. And these ideas will transform your life. And I know because I've now been teaching them since 2001. And I meet people all over the world who've become millionaires and multimillionaires and multi-hundred millionaires. I also have 3 people, graduates, who've come to me and who have become billionaires and multi-billionaires, starting off as poor people, working in laboring jobs, hourly wages. And suddenly the lights went on, and they hit the right business at the right time with the right equipment, the right tools, and they became very wealthy. I was visiting one of my clients who actually called me indirectly through the internet and asked me if I would come and spend a day coaching with him in Monte Carlo. And I won't say more than that, except that he's extremely well known, but he had a fortune. By this time, if you're in Monte Carlo, your information is on Google and Forbes and others. So his net worth today is about $8.7 billion. And he was pushing a gurney on a hospital corridor when he came across my material. He's now worth $8.7 billion. His home is the largest home in Southern Europe. It's a condominium, and it costs $300 million for him and his wife. $300 million. Unbelievable. Very nice place, by the way. Amazing what you can do if you stand back and throw $100 million bills at a piece of land in Monte Carlo for any period of time. So what Howard and I have done is we've put this together, and I'm going to go through this, and I find that there's 3 ways to learn. There's 3 critical ways to learn. One is by taking in new information. So I will give you information, and also have it written down, and you'll read it. The second is to write things down. And I have a rule that I have started to repeat is think on paper. Think on paper. Think on paper. If you don't write things down, there have been several studies recently at Harvard and Wall Street Journal, is that people who don't write things down remember nothing. You'll forget 90% of the information you take in if you don't write it down and not type it down. So more and more professors are saying, you cannot sit there and just type out what I say because there's no thinking involved. And I hadn't realized this, but if you're just typing it out, you're just repeating what the professor said. And you're repeating as fast as you can, so you have no time even to think about the information. However, if you write it down, you have to interpret it yourself. You have to write it down in your own words. You have to write more and less and so on. And the third way that we learn is by talking. Socrates, probably the greatest original philosopher, said we only learn something by dialoguing about it, by talking about it. We don't learn something if we don't talk. He taught philosophy. He was what was called a peripatetic. If you really want to impress people, I don't really get it. A peripatetic philosopher. And a peripatetic means walking around. And that means that he would walk around with his students and ask them questions and talk. And they would walk around, ask questions, talk, discuss. And as a result of this, they would learn at a deeper and deeper basis. Plato was a student of Socrates, who never wrote a word, by the way. And then Aristotle, perhaps the greatest philosopher of all time, was a student of Plato. And they used the same method. Take it in, write things down, Plato, and then discuss it over and over again. So it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's what we will do. So we will use the finest ways of learning ever discovered in human history, and you'll find they're also the most enjoyable ways, easiest and pleasant ways. So I'm going to ask you a question, and then we will start. And it's not my favorite question. And by the way, Howard, or if anybody else hears anything that I say and they like it, take it. It's free. It's no limitation, no patent or no exclusive information. I've always encouraged people that if they hear something that I say that they want to use themselves, and so they can take it. And so they use my stuff all over the world. And speakers will come up to me, top speakers will come up to me and say, you know, I attended your seminar and I really liked the way you said that because it goes with what I teach. Or I really like what you wrote in your book. I hope I don't get into any trouble. I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Everything is in public domain. And by the way, legally, anything that you say is public domain. So if I say something to you and you repeat it, I can't come and say, wait a minute, that was mine. No, if you say it, it's public domain. It belongs to the world. If you write something down and copyright it, then it's different. But even short pieces, people write to me and say, can I quote from your book? I say, absolutely. Anything that's short, public domain. And there's an awful lot of people say, mine, 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 like a little baby, mine, it's mine, it's mine. It's not yours. Good grief, you stole it from someone else, who stole it from someone else, who stole it from someone else. I was at a conference with some speakers, there were 3 or 4 of us sitting there, and he said, did you ever think of this? And he said something really good, like the more you succeed, the more you help others succeed, and the more something like that. And the fellow next to me said, that is a very good observation. I wish I'd said that. And the next person over says, by tomorrow I will have. And so nothing is what does it say in Ecclesiastic, is nothing is new under the sun. And so if you hear anything that's of any value, take it. I even have people take my seminars and name books after them. And then you read the book, and the book is, well, this is my seminar, this is my book, this is my... in my 2-day seminar, which I began giving in 1981, I talk about the laws, various laws of success. And someone, no names need to be mentioned, easy to figure out, came along and went to my seminar 3 times in a row, took down copious notes, and then wrote a book on the power of the law of attraction, which was called something that is, well, not well known. Anyway, and I began teaching it 20 years before she began writing about it. And she called my office and she wanted me to give her a testimonial or a quote for her book, which was coming out, which I would more than willingly have done, because I always help people, 100% of the time, no hesitation, except that the person in my office was on commission. And he said, well, how much does Brian get? And he said, well, there's no remuneration involved. So he said, then he's not going to give you a comment, and hung up, slam, and never told me. So I never knew that she had come to me and asked for a quotation. But nonetheless, she can have the material. Who cares? Who cares if she made $1 million off of my stuff? So here's my question. And the question is, what is your most valuable financial asset? And when I first heard this question some years ago, I didn't know the answer. And then I realized that your most valuable financial asset is your earning ability. It's your ability to earn money. It's your ability to get results that other people will pay you for. It is the most valuable financial asset you have, because you can lose everything, your house, your home, your car, your savings, but if you still have your earning ability, your ability to get results for people, to improve their lives or change their lives in some way, you can go back and earn it all back. That's why someone was talking just the other day about, Howard was talking this morning, about how it's the person that you become when you become successful that's more important than the money that you earn. Because he didn't say it, but you could lose all the money, but if you're still that person, you'll make it all back again. You just make it all back. And so your earning ability, which is your ability, your knowledge, and your skills, your ability to do things that enhance the lives of other people, that serve other people, that is the most valuable asset that you have. And so what is your most valuable, most important job in life is to increase your earning ability, is to get better and better at what you do, get better and better at getting results that people pay for. And people today only care about results, is they don't care about how nice. In fact, there's 2 books written 2 years ago, and I either read the books or the reviews of the books, and they were written by people on either coast, and they both came up to the same conclusion. They said that when you meet a new person, they were both on personality, influence, skills, and so on. They said the interesting thing is the first thing that a person looks for when they meet a new person is, one book said, is this person trustworthy? Can I trust this person? And the second thing that they ask for is this person likable? Trustworthy and or likable. So one book talked about how you develop a picture, knowledge in the other person's mind of being trustworthy. And a lot of things, looking them directly in the eye, shaking hands with them, things like that. And the other is, are you likable? And then that was one set of dimension of qualities. The other dimension is, are you good at what you do? Are you good at what you do? And the second of all is, are you strong or competent in your work. So they looked at these two, and they found the two really blend together like two railroad tracks coming together in the distance, is people want to know if you're trustworthy and competent, trustworthy and likable if you're competent and good at what you do. That's the first thing they care about. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story, it's quite fascinating because I'd read both books, is they said that if you are really nice, but you're not competent, people like you, but they feel sorry for you. The word is pity, is people pity you. And now, I don't know about you, but I have no desire to be pitied. And so there's lots of people out there that are blowing smoke with their friends and sitting around and talking and chatting. This average person at work today spends about 37% of the workday chatting with their friends. They spend about another 20% checking their email and their messages, their SMSs, or on the phone. And they spend less than 50% actually doing the job for which they're being paid. And they wonder why they don't get promoted. And they say, well, it's always because of politics or something else. No, is they're wasting their time doing stuff that's of no value. So people say, oh, he or she's a really nice person. Yeah, what a shame. And they have no future. What a shame that their kids have no future. The kids will always get secondhand stuff or used stuff or stuff that's not very good. They'll always live in a smaller house. It's because the person thinks, well, if I'm really popular at work, and this is what you've got to be really careful about when we talk about loving and hugging and caring and sharing at work. Yes, but do your job well. Do your job well. You can be really nice socially. You can be friendly and helpful and everything else, but do your job well. Because if you don't do your job well, if you don't get results, then people feel sorry for you. And not only that, you have no future. And there's an awful lot of people who are like that, who think that it's a badge of honor to be really likable, and it doesn't really matter if you're any good at what you do. And that's a big mistake. And many people make that. More than 50%, more than, like say 80% of the population make that mistake. The old 80-20 rule is they do their job average, but people like them and they're friends and have a beer with them after work, but in their hearts they don't respect them. And we don't want that for ourselves. So anyway, your earning ability is really important, and in times of rapid change and turmoil, obsolescence, your earning ability is becoming outdated all the time. What got you here won't get you any further. What got you to where you are today is not going to get you to the top. Is you're going to have to continually become better and better because your skills are becoming obsolete, just like a piece of machinery becomes obsolete. So you've always got to be upgrading your skills. So I came up with this little model, and I called it the ladder of success. And the ladder of success says that there's a ladder, and each rung on the ladder is a skill. And when you develop a new skill, you develop the ability to get results that people will pay you for, which moves you up the ladder of income. You are now worth more money, and your boss or somebody else's boss will willingly pay you more money. The cheapest thing that you can possibly do in the world of work is hire good people and pay them a lot of money, because they'll always earn you vastly more than they cost. In fact, good people are free plus a profit. This is not even in here. I don't even want going into it. But good people are free plus a profit. They more than pay for themselves, plus they make you a profit. That's why companies like Microsoft and Google and Apple will hire a person $120,000 to $150,000 in their first job, and then they'll pay them $150,000, $175,000, $200,000 over the next 3 to 5 years before they go somewhere else. Why on earth can they pay them so much money? And the answer is because they contribute so much value. They're worth vastly more than the amount that they cost. They had they needed 6 people for Amazon last year. You may have heard of this. So they placed an ad in the technical journals and Craigslist and so on. They got 4,000 applications. 4,000 applications for 6 jobs. People came from all over the world and lined up and slept in the streets like an Apple iPhone release because they wanted these jobs. They would do anything, pay anything to get these jobs. Because if you could get a job doing one of these things with one of these companies, your reputation would be phenomenal. So the second question I would ask then is, what is your most precious resource? And your most precious resource is your time. It's your time. It's your ability. It is your ability to use your time. You can lose everything, but if you have your time, you can do anything. And so time is absolutely vital. And I began studying time management many years ago. They asked me to write a program on time management, which I did. And then later, I suggested that I write a book on time management. And they said, okay, send us an outline, which I did. And they came back and they said, we don't like this outline. However, if you were to change this and this and this, then we would have a book there. And at that time, Who Ate My Cheese and Fish and some of these animal books were popular. So I wrote a book called Eat That Frog. And Eat That Frog was based on a little anecdote by Mark Twain in 1875, where he said, if the first thing you do in the morning is you eat a live frog, you'll have the satisfaction of knowing that's probably the worst thing that's going to happen to you all day long. And it's like, Mark Twain was a great humorist. And that was my chapter 15 in my outline, my proposal. And they said, no, why don't you run this through the whole book? So everything has to, setting the table, preparing the ingredients, organizing the kitchen, and so on. So everything links in like a thread. And so I did. The book is now the best-selling book on time management in the history of the world in 42 languages. It just sells and sells and sells. It sells hundreds and then thousands and then tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of copies. And we just brought out the third edition because when I wrote the book 10 years ago, the social media was nowhere near as big as it was. In fact, Facebook was just getting started. So now I've written one chapter on technology, then two, and then three. Out of the same 21 chapters, we have to mix and match and so on. And so I know a lot about time management. And I found that anybody can double their income, by the way. Anybody here like to double their income? Say yes. Yes. Of course. Anybody can double their income within 30 days, sometimes within 7. Who did that? And why did they do that? I've not been here before, but somebody keeps doing that, and everybody else cheers. And I don't know. I'm looking.
That's an aha. You got an aha.
Thank you. What is your name, sir?
John Michaelides.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Now I know. It's an aha. Wow. Okay. I could have sat here all day and not known what was going on. I promise you there will be no balloons left by the end of my day. There will be no balloons. I promise you that. And so, no, you're getting a bit sloppy there. All right. And so, so your time is your most valuable, and you can double your income. And so I put together, well, how can I double my income? Well, it's very simple. And here's another way, and here's another way, and here's another way. And I just threw them out. And people go, whack, whack, pop, pop, whack, pop, whack. Because the methods are so simple. I'll give you a very simple method that's guaranteed to work. And to double your income, let's say you decide to double your income, then you have to increase your income 25% per year. 25% per year for 2 years and 7 months with compounding, the great miracle that Einstein identified. With compounding, you double your income if you become 25% more productive in 2 years and 7 months. That means if you become 2% more productive, or even less, in a month, then you'll become 25% more productive in a year. You'll be twice as productive and twice as highly paid in 3 years. Now, here's what I discovered way back in the day. I was looking at all these different techniques, and I put them all together into what I call the 1,000% formula. Because if you become 25% better each year for 10 years with compounding, you actually increase your income by 1,004%. 1,004%. And so I began practicing this, what I call the 1,000% formula, and I began teaching it in some of my seminars. And people started coming back to me a year or 2 or 3 years later and say, this is incredible. And then 5 or 6 years later, they come back and they say they doubled their income and then doubled it again. And now they've increased their income 10 times in 6 or 7 years. They said the only thing wrong with your formula is that it's too conservative because it works immediately and it works predictably. So if you become 2% more productive, and you know how you can become 2% more productive? There's a whole series of techniques. I've got dozens of them. But one is very simply is to start and complete your most important task first thing each morning. Do not check your email in the morning. Do not make phone calls. Do not waste time. Is the night before you plan your day. You pick the most important thing you can do. First thing in the morning, you start on that task, and then you discipline yourself. Execution is Howard was talking about. You discipline yourself to work just on that task until it's complete every single day. If you start off every day with your most important task completed, you actually propel yourselves, almost like shot from guns, into the next task and the next task and the next task. And I'll tell you why. Psychologically, human beings are designed to be productive, to get results, to produce things. And when we do, it makes us happy. And it also raises our self-esteem and self-confidence. We feel like winners. When we start and complete a task, we feel really good about ourselves. We feel happy. And our brain releases endorphins. And endorphins are called nature's happy drug. And when you complete a task, you get a flush of endorphins that makes you brighten up. It makes you like yourself, increases your self-respect, self-esteem. You feel good about yourself. And it propels you to want to start and complete another task. I'm going to give you something that I incorporated into my life many years ago, is build your whole life around starting and completing tasks. Even if it's something as simple as cleaning the table and putting all the dishes in the sink, or putting all the dishes away. Maybe it's something as simple as washing out your car inside and outside. Maybe it's something as simple as just finishing a short task at work and finish it 100%. And this is the key. I learned this from Solzhenitsyn many years ago, is you get nothing. You get no bang from your buck. You get no surge of joy by doing something 95%. You get nothing. But if you complete something 100%, you get this, wow. If you just do that, you'll double your productivity, performance, and income within 30 days. And everybody who ever does it says, like the kids say, you know, shaking my head, SMH, SMH, shaking my head. And so that's one really simple way to do it. And I'll give you some other ways as we go along. So your job is to become more and more productive. And you'll find that the most successful people, and I have whole other seminars in the world, are people who are highly productive. And they're highly productive because they start and complete their most important tasks first thing in the morning. Because whatever you do repeatedly becomes a habit. So if you start and check your email and drink coffee and read the paper and put your feet up and so on, that becomes a habit. If you do it over and over again. Unfortunately, it's fun. It's fun to chat with your friends and send some messages and go shopping online and things like that. And so it's easy. So the great problem in life is that people do what is fun and easy rather than what is hard and necessary. And whatever you do repeatedly becomes a habit. Goethe had a wonderful line with regard to habits. He said, everything is hard before it's easy. Everything is hard before it's easy. So I've just given you one way to double your income. I'll give you a couple of others as we go along. And that's the essence of the book. Start and complete your main task. People say, this book made me rich with the one simple idea. Start every morning, not later. Start first thing in the morning. So here's my third question to you. What is the most important investment of your time and money? What is the very best investment of your time and money? And the answer is to increase your earning ability. Is to invest money in yourself, as you are doing here, to develop new skills. And here's a great question. It's not in here, but I learned this a few years ago from a time management expert. And the question is simply this: what one skill, if you developed and did it in an excellent way, would help you the most to double your income? What one skill, if you developed and did it in an excellent way, would help you the most to double your income? Now, when I heard that question, I almost drove off the road. I was in Salt Lake City. I almost drove off the road. I don't even know anybody there. And I realized this is one of the great operating questions of adult life. Is what is it? And then they did a study covering 25 years and the 500 highest paid people in the Fortune 500, and they found that this turned out to be the strategy of the highest paid people in American industry. Is what they did, like a sniper, picking one target at a time. They picked one skill at a time. They didn't try to learn multiple skills, they learned a single skill. And they learned the single skill that would help them the most at this time to get better results faster. And once they had mastered that skill clearly, then they would say, now, what one skill would help me the most? So I'm going to give you a little test to sort of illustrate everything we've talked about. I'm going to ask you to write down the one skill that could help you more than any other skill to increase your productivity, performance, output, and income. Double your income. Just write it down. What one skill? Imagine that we could wave a magic wand and, like a miracle, overnight, you could become absolutely excellent in one important skill. What one skill would you choose? If somebody came by and gave you a magic elixir or a pill, you take this and you're suddenly excellent in that skill for the rest of your life. What skill would help you the most? You write that down. Now here's a couple of 2 points. Number one, you better be right. And more than 50% of the people I worked with initially were wrong. They said, well, I was really good at this, that would help me. And after you break it down a bit, you find that's really not quite correct. There's another skill that's far more important than that, or that may be an important skill, but it's not your skill to learn. So always you double check your conclusion with your boss, your friends, your coworkers, and so on. The second thing to remember with this is that you must know the answer to this skill or you cannot move ahead. You're locked in place. It's almost like your legs are in a bear trap. You just can't move ahead unless you know exactly the one skill that will help you the most. And that has to become a central focus of your life and of your personal education. You could learn 100 other subjects, but if none of the subjects help you to improve the quality of your life or the lives of others, they're a waste of time. But one skill, sometimes one skill can transform your life. So, write it down, and then please turn to the person next to you and tell them the one skill that would help you the most to double your income if you're absolutely excellent at it overnight. Tell the person next to you, what's the one skill?
And I have a question. Where are we in this book?
We're not there.
We haven't got there yet?
Just
we're just writing all this stuff in here, and I'm just completely befuddled.
Yeah, it's not there.
Huh?
It's not there. I just got onto a roll.
Okay, so we're not able to hear anything
okay.
yet.
By the way, none of this is in the workbook. None of this is in the workbook. This is our warm-up phase. All right? We'll start with the workbook right now. Now this question is a great question because here are the two discoveries. Number one is that all business skills are learnable. All money-making skills are learnable. Do you want to become wealthy? There's hundreds of thousands and millions of people who started with nothing and become millionaires, so it's a learnable skill. And what hundreds of thousands and millions of others have learned over time, you can learn as well. All you have to do is decide to do it. And of course you are. The second is that you're probably only one skill away from doubling your income right now. You're probably only one skill away from doubling your income. And if you wrote down the answer to this question, you know what that skill is. Now the only question is execution. That's why Howard and I get along so well, because it's not that you don't know. You absolutely know. It's just, will you do it? All right, so let's begin with total business mastery. And we say here we go, okay. There we go. Unlocking your potential. One of the great insights is that you have more potential than you could use in 100 lifetimes. You could never use all of your potential, and the more of your potential you use, the more it becomes available to you to use. It's almost like if you work out with weights, you build up your muscles. The muscles become bigger and stronger, and the stronger they become, the more you can lift, and the stronger you become. So it's an upward cycle of learning. You can learn faster and faster. So we say here is how to offer a great product, increase your sales, and boost your profitability. So your business and your personal potential, we say this is where you start off in life. You start off earning a small amount. It's almost as if we begin our working life like a marathon. And we all line up and we all have a number and they shoot the gun and we start running. And then over the weeks and months and years ahead, some people get way ahead. By the 30s and 40s, some people are earning enormous amounts. In the study that I told you, I could spend a lot of time on it, but it was simply this. They found that the average CEO of a Fortune 500 company today, this year, 2017, earns 303 times the average income of the person in the company. And some of those people started off at pretty much the same time. They earned 303 times. They started off even at the start of the starting line, and now they earn an average of 303 times. How could one person earn so much money? And so they went back and they said, well, it must be because these people are brilliant and well-educated and incredibly creative, and they have special skills or genetic structure or so on. And they traced all the way back to the first interviews, even their high school grades, the first interviews, the first jobs they had, the first performance reviews. And they just tracked them through their career, and they found that none of those things was true. In fact, many of them are average people. Having had the good fortune of working with millionaires and billionaires and spending many hours with them, sometimes with one of them, 8 hours, an entire day, just basically talking, eating, talking, walking, talking, so on. I find they're really quite ordinary people. Have you had that experience? You meet people who have done extraordinary things, and they're just really nice people. They're not leaping buildings with single bounds or anything else. And they have just somehow put together a unique combination of things. And what they found at the University of South Florida is what they did is they developed one skill at a time, climbing this ladder of earning ability. And each skill, instead of actually becoming a mathematical skill, where it's 1 plus 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3 and so on, they found that compounding is that as they learn new skills, the skills help them use their other skills at a higher level. And the miracle of compounding kicked in about the third skill. So instead of getting twice as much, 3 times as much, they started to get 5 times as much, 7 times as much, 8 times as much. Today, average of 303 times as much. Wow. One skill at a time, as opposed to learn a little skill here, learn a little skill there, go watch TV. Is what they did is they just focused. Now, how long did they spend? By the way, all the answers have been found. What they found was that these top people invested an average of 2 hours per day, 5 days per week, during the week, to get to master these skills and get to the top of their field. That's 2 hours a day.